Hello everyone, this is Major Green, also known as Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to talk about the Orville versus Star Trek Discovery. Now, even before I saw both of those shows, when I just saw the trailers of them, even back then I said that the Orville looks, visually it looks much better, in my opinion. All the sets look really pretty, or sort of like the Enterprise D in Star Trek TNG. Everything looks like the kind of place you want to be in. Visually pleasant to the eye, visually appealing, all the special effects look clean, they look clear. You can tell what's going on, there are no lens flares, no shaky cam, so it's much more visually appealing in my opinion. While Star Trek Discovery, in my opinion, looks kind of like crap. Everything is too dark, the camera is tilted in weird angles or moving around needlessly, or shaking or zooming in and out, and lens flares everywhere including in space. And it seems like they're trying way too hard to look realistic, as if someone is actually filming that in space with a handheld camera, and everything has to be stylistically edgy and all that stuff. So, in my opinion, it just looks awful. And I said that even after watching the trailers before actually watching the show, and I said that the Orville looks much better visually, it looks so much better, so much more appealing. But I also said that in the end of the day, what makes a show great is not just the visual style of it, but the stories. And I said that maybe the stories in Star Trek Discovery will be so much better, then it will be a better show. And I kind of expected that to be the case. I presumed, because it's a much more expensive show, I thought they would get good writers and that they would actually invest in the story, the characters, they would make it all very interesting. While the Orville I knew would be a comedy, so it probably wouldn't take itself too seriously, and so it would be silly, maybe too silly. They wouldn't have proper stories, they would just be ripping off stories from Star Trek and just laughing at them, and so I really didn't expect good stories from the Orville, and I expected good stories from Star Trek Discovery. But amazingly, the opposite happened. Somehow, the Orville actually had great stories, some of them original, or maybe not completely original, but relatively original stuff that we didn't see on TV or in movies, at least in a long time. While in Star Trek Discovery, I can't even say there is a story. I don't know what is the story there. And, the characters on the Orville, you get to know each of the characters, each of the bridge characters, you know a lot about him. While in Star Trek Discovery, you don't know almost any of them. You have a whole bunch of cool-looking characters, like a robotic lady, a lady with a strange haircut, some alien guy with a huge head. So you get to see all kinds of strange characters on the bridge, but you never get anything from them. You don't know their names even. They have zero personality, any of those characters. Now the main ones do get developed a little bit, like Captain Lorca and so on, so there is some, I'm not saying there is nothing in that show, there are some interesting elements, but overall it doesn't really feel like you even know the characters. And the characters that you do get to know, you don't find them likable, and also because all the sets and everything looks so depressing, you really don't want to be there. You wouldn't want to live on that ship. And meanwhile, when you look at the Orville, you see such a beautiful ship inside and out, and you get to see so many likable characters and funny characters. You really would want to be there. Like, if you had a choice, which ship would you rather be on right now? I'm sure most people would say the Orville, even though there's some crazy stuff going on there, but it's much more appealing to be there compared to Star Trek Discovery, which is just depressing. But that's kind of the setting of it. But what about the actual stories? Like on the Orville, each episode had its own story, and each episode was very fun. Each episode had an interesting story, actual science fiction stories with an actual plot, with actual science fiction elements, kind of stuff to think about. So this is science fiction. While on the other hand, Discovery, they don't really deal with any science fiction topic. So maybe it's too early to judge, maybe it will all turn upside down later, maybe Star Trek Discovery will start suddenly improve its storytelling, maybe they'll even improve the sets, who knows, maybe the Orville will start running out of ideas, maybe they won't have any new original stories. So theoretically it might be possible that I will have a different opinion later on. But so far, judging from season 1 of both shows, the Orville I would say is 10 times better than Star Trek Discovery, hands down in my opinion. Simply a much more superior show. It's more entertaining, it's fun, it's visually appealing, it has interesting science fiction stories, while STD is just shit. I can barely watch it even once each episode. Like the Orville, for the sake of the reviews, I watched each episode twice. First I just watched it for myself, and then to make a review I watched it again to really analyze it deeply, and I had fun both times watching each episode. On the other hand, Star Trek Discovery, I could barely watch it once. I would pause it to take snapshots in the middle of watching it the first time, because I didn't want to watch it a second time. And if I had to pick which of them to watch now, if I had to pick an episode, I would definitely watch the Orville again and not STD. So I think based on the first season so far, I think the Orville is far superior to STD in every single way, which is surprising. I didn't expect STDs to suck so much. I kind of thought that they would have better storytelling. I knew I would visually dislike it, but I honestly didn't expect the stories to be so bad and so boring and the characters to be so unlikable and all that stuff. So maybe it's possible they will turn it around later. I know a whole bunch of shows that I hated at first and then I really loved. For example, Deep Space Nine, I really hated it when it came out. I absolutely despised it. I stopped watching it, and that was when I was a kid, and I didn't have a lot of other stuff to watch, but I hated Deep Space Nine so much that I didn't bother watching it. But later on, when I watched it again a few seasons later, I absolutely loved it. It became, in some ways, it's even the best Star Trek shows, in my opinion, in the later seasons. On many levels, it might actually be the best show, even better than TNG, which is technically my favorite show, but Deep Space Nine in some ways is even better in the later seasons. But I absolutely hated the first 2 seasons of it, like absolutely hated it. And there was many other shows like Stargate SG-1, I also hated at first and then I loved it and so on. So I guess it's possible that STD will evolve and become a much better show, but I really doubt it. And at this point I think it's impossible for them to correct some of the mess they created with the continuity and all that stuff. They completely contradicted so many things with the other shows that I think it's impossible now to correct it. Maybe except using time travel or another universe or something like that, but there's no way in hell that show can be set in the prime timeline. Like, it's too late to correct that. I can't make excuses for it anymore. There is no way to correct all their blunders, except making it all a new timeline. So I think that's it for this review. So I think the Orville wins by far. So this is my opinion. Maybe my opinion will change later if suddenly the Orville turns into shit and the STD suddenly becomes 50 times better, then maybe I will change my mind. But if not, I think it's clear that the Orville is far superior in every way. So that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below and I will see you next time. Bye bye.